2,000 years ago, in a land under Roman rule, Jesus spoke words that stunned his audience: love your neighbor as yourself. For people living under heavy taxes, cultural conflict, and constant suspicion, such a command was revolutionary. To love others, especially outsiders, was unimaginable. Yet Jesus taught that the way you treat your neighbor is the way you treat God. Fast forward to 2025. Our neighbors are no longer only those who live next door. They appear on our Twitter feed, in our TikTok comments, or across a Zoom call at work. Love your neighbor now means showing dignity to a stranger online, respect to a colleague you dislike, and compassion to immigrants in your city. Modern psychology confirms what Jesus already knew: kindness reduces anxiety, builds stronger communities, and even heals the heart. Consider a story. A young woman named Sarah worked in a large tech company. Every day, she faced cruel comments about her appearance on social media. She felt worthless, ready to quit. One afternoon in the cafeteria, a colleague she barely knew sat down beside her and said, "I see how hard you work. You're making a difference here." That single sentence gave Sarah the courage to stay, to fight, and to believe she wasn't alone. A neighbor is not just someone who lives beside us. A neighbor is anyone whose life we can touch, even with one kind word. In 2025, love your neighbor as yourself means this: when you see division, become the bridge; when you see hate, choose compassion. Memorable quote: love is stronger than division. Even in 2025. One day, Peter asked Jesus, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" Jesus answered, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. For his listeners, this was radical. Forgiveness was rare in a world of revenge and honor. Yet Jesus taught that forgiveness is not optional, it is the path to freedom. In 2025, forgiveness feels just as difficult. Families break apart over money, friends stop speaking over politics, and cancel culture online destroys reputations. Holding on to bitterness seems easier than letting go. But unforgiveness is a prison that locks us in with our anger. Modern psychology agrees: resentment increases stress, harms mental health, and even damages the body. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength. It is the decision to release another person from your judgment so you can finally heal. Let me tell you a modern story. A man named Daniel was betrayed by his business partner. Overnight, he lost money, friendships, and his reputation. For years, Daniel replayed the betrayal in his mind. He dreamed of revenge. Yet, the anger consumed him more than it hurt his enemy. One evening, after hearing a sermon online, Daniel decided to write a letter, not to send, but to release. In that letter, he poured out his pain, his anger, and finally his words of forgiveness. He never mailed it, but in the act of writing, the chains began to break. Daniel's situation didn't change overnight, but his heart did. He found peace again, not because the other person deserved it, but because he chose freedom. Forgiveness in 2025 means daring to move forward without being chained to the past. It is not forgetting what happened, it is choosing not to let the wound control you. Memorable quote: forgiveness is not for them, it's for your peace. Jesus once said, "For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." In the 1st century, this teaching clashed with Roman culture, where honor, power, and status meant everything. Leaders ruled with pride, and weakness was despised. Yet Jesus turned the world upside down. He washed his disciples' feet like a servant and taught that greatness is not measured by power but by service. Fast forward to 2025. Our culture is obsessed with fame, followers, and influence. Social media trains us to count likes as value, to chase attention as if it were oxygen. But humility reminds us that numbers are not identity. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. Modern research echoes this truth. Studies show that humble leaders create stronger teams, humble friends form deeper relationships, and humble people live with greater inner peace. Humility is the quiet strength that inspires trust. Consider a story. Emma was a rising influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. Every post was carefully staged: designer clothes, luxury trips, perfect smiles. But behind the screen, she felt empty, exhausted by the need to always be on display. One evening, after a breakdown, Emma posted something different. She shared a simple photo of herself without makeup, holding her grandmother's hand, saying, "This is who I really am." To her surprise, that post became her most loved. People connected not with her perfection, but with her honesty. Emma realized that humility didn't weaken her brand, it made her human. In 2025, humility might look like listening more than speaking, admitting mistakes at work, or choosing to celebrate someone else's success without envy. True humility doesn't erase your value, it reveals your strength. Memorable quote: "Humility is the crown that never fades." Jesus once said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." In the ancient world, lies enslaved people. Corrupt leaders twisted justice, merchants cheated with dishonest scales, and those in power manipulated truth for control. Jesus challenged this darkness, declaring himself to be the way, the truth, and the life. For him, truth was not just information, it was liberation. Now imagine 2025. We live in an age of misinformation. Fake news spreads faster than facts, AI can generate voices and images that deceive, and trust in institutions has collapsed. Many people wonder, what is even real anymore? Honesty today requires courage. It means resisting the urge to present a perfect image online. It means speaking truth at work even when it's unpopular. It means living with integrity when no one is watching. Truth is not convenient, but it is powerful. Research shows that honesty reduces stress, builds credibility, and strengthens relationships. Lies, however, require endless energy to maintain. Living in truth is lighter, it sets you free. Consider a story. Jacob was a journalist pressured by his company to exaggerate headlines for clicks. At first, he obeyed. Views skyrocketed, but so did his guilt. One day, a report he had stretched went viral and ruined the reputation of an innocent small business. The backlash shook Jacob. He realized his career was built on sand. After deep reflection, he resigned and started an independent newsletter, committed to honest reporting. The road was harder, but slowly readers trusted him again, not because his stories were sensational, but because they were true. In 2025, truth and honesty are more than moral choices, they are survival skills. In a world drowning in deception, the people who choose truth become beacons of hope. Memorable quote: "Honesty may cost you in the short term, but truth pays forever." Jesus told his followers, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Each day has enough trouble of its own. In his time, people struggled with survival, food, clothing, and shelter were never guaranteed. Anxiety was constant. Yet Jesus pointed to the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, saying, "Your heavenly Father knows what you need." He was not teaching irresponsibility, but trust that life is more than endless fear. Now imagine 2025. We live in the age of anxiety. The economy is uncertain, jobs are unstable, the news cycle never stops, and technology keeps us awake at night. People worry about paying rent, about climate change, about whether they are falling behind in life. Worry has become the background music of our generation. But Jesus' words still cut through the noise. Worry cannot add a single hour to your life. Instead, it steals joy from today. Modern science agrees. Chronic anxiety damages the body, weakens the immune system, and shortens life expectancy. Peace, on the other hand, restores both mind and body. Consider a modern story. Maria was a single mother working 2 jobs. Every night she lay awake, worrying about bills, her child's future, and her own health. One evening, exhausted, she read Jesus' words, "Look at the birds, your Father feeds them." She stepped outside and saw sparrows fluttering in the streetlights. For the first time in months, she felt her heart slow down. Maria didn't become rich overnight. Her problems didn't disappear. But her perspective shifted. She began to live one day at a time. She still worked hard, but worry no longer controlled her. She discovered that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of trust. In 2025, do not worry doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let fear dictate your life. It means focusing on what you can do today, and entrusting tomorrow to God. Memorable quote: "Worry empties today of its strength, it never empties tomorrow of its troubles." Jesus once said, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." This teaching shattered expectations in his time. Leaders in the Roman world displayed power by commanding others. Servants existed to elevate the master. Yet Jesus redefined greatness, not by how many people serve you, but by how many people you serve. Fast forward to 2025. Our culture celebrates self-promotion. Social media encourages us to showcase achievements, wealth, and lifestyle. Even good deeds are often filmed for likes. But real service is not about being seen, it's about lifting someone else without expecting reward. Modern studies confirm this truth. People who volunteer, mentor, or help others experience less depression, greater happiness, and even longer lifespans. Service transforms both the giver and the receiver. Consider a modern story. Kevin was a successful lawyer, wealthy and respected. Yet, despite his achievements, he felt empty. One weekend, a friend invited him to help at a community shelter. At first, Kevin resisted. He thought his time was too valuable. But reluctantly, he agreed. That Saturday, Kevin served meals to the homeless. He looked into the eyes of a man who whispered, "Thank you. This is the first hot meal I've had in days." In that moment, Kevin realized that serving gave him more fulfillment than winning any legal battle. He began volunteering every week, and his life gained new meaning. In 2025, serving others may look like mentoring a student, visiting someone lonely, or simply helping a neighbor with groceries. True service is not glamorous. It often goes unnoticed. but it is the quiet force that heals communities and brings dignity to the overlooked. Memorable quote: "Greatness is not measured by power, but by service." Jesus once asked, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" In his day, people were tempted to compromise their beliefs for money, power, or safety. The Roman Empire demanded loyalty to Caesar, and religious leaders often valued prestige more than truth. But Jesus called his followers to live with faithfulness, even when it cost them everything. In 2025, the temptation is just as strong. Success is measured in wealth, fame, and influence. People chase titles, bend their morals for profit, and sacrifice integrity for short-term gains. Yet, the question remains, what is the point of having everything if you lose yourself in the process? Faithfulness in modern life means staying true to your values even when no one is watching. It means choosing honesty over corruption, love over selfish ambition, and conscience over compromise. Consider a modern story. Alex was a young executive in a powerful corporation. He discovered that his company was secretly covering up environmental damage. His superiors pressured him to stay quiet, promising a promotion if he complied. Alex wrestled with the decision. If he exposed the truth, he could lose his job and reputation. If he stayed silent, he would betray his conscience. After weeks of sleepless nights, Alex chose integrity. He became a whistleblower, risking everything to protect the environment and the people affected. His career took a hit, but he kept his soul intact. Years later, Alex found peace in knowing he had chosen faithfulness over fear. In 2025, faithfulness doesn't always make you rich or popular. But it makes you whole. To be faithful is to choose your soul over success, your conscience over convenience. Memorable quote: "Better to lose the world than lose your soul." Jesus once said, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." In his day, these words were almost unthinkable. The Jewish people lived under Roman occupation, and resentment ran deep. Most believed the only answer to oppression was resistance, even violence. Yet Jesus introduced a radical idea: respond to hate with love, and to violence with forgiveness. In 2025, these words still challenge us. Our enemies may not be soldiers in the streets, but they appear as co-workers who betray us, family members who wound us, or strangers who attack us online. Social media thrives on conflict, teaching us to cancel and destroy our opponents. But Jesus calls us to something higher, to see even our enemy as human. Modern psychology supports this truth. Studies show that holding on to hate increases stress and damages health, while practicing compassion, even toward enemies, frees us emotionally and mentally. Love for enemies doesn't excuse injustice, but it breaks the cycle of hatred. Consider a modern story. Nadia lived in a city divided by politics. She was harassed online daily for her views. One of her loudest critics, Ethan, insulted her constantly on social media. One day, they unexpectedly met in person at a community event. Instead of lashing out, Nadia walked over, smiled, and said, "It's strange to meet you outside the screen. I hope we can talk like people." The tension broke. Ethan was surprised by her kindness. Over time, what was once bitter enmity turned into dialogue. They never fully agreed, but they learned to respect each other. Nadia's choice to respond with love rather than hate changed not just their relationship, but the tone of their community. In 2025, love your enemies means refusing to dehumanize. It means listening instead of attacking, forgiving instead of retaliating, and remembering that love has the power to end cycles of hatred. Memorable quote: "When you love your enemy, you disarm the cycle of hate." Jesus once said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." In his time, justice was scarce. The poor were ignored, widows were exploited, and the powerful twisted the law for their own advantage. Many believed justice was only for the rich and strong. Yet Jesus promised that those who longed for righteousness would not be forgotten, that God Himself stood with them. Fast forward to 2025. The struggle for justice continues. Inequality, discrimination, corruption, and oppression still plague societies around the globe. From racial injustice to economic exploitation, from climate damage to political corruption, countless voices cry out for fairness. To pursue justice today means refusing to stay silent in the face of wrongdoing. It means standing with the marginalized, defending the voiceless, and using whatever influence you have to protect the vulnerable. Justice is not just an ideal, it is love in action. Modern research shows that societies built on justice and fairness prosper longer and have healthier citizens. Communities where justice fails collapse under mistrust and division. Pursuing justice is not just moral, it is essential for survival. Consider a modern story. Maya, a young lawyer, discovered that a local housing company was illegally evicting low-income families. The company hoped no one would notice. At great personal cost, Maya gathered evidence, built a case, and stood in court for those who could not stand for themselves. The trial was long and difficult, but eventually, justice prevailed. The families kept their homes, and the company was forced to change its practices. Maya didn't become rich, but she discovered something greater: the joy of fighting for what was right. In 2025, pursuing justice may mean speaking up against bullying in school, protecting a coworker from discrimination, or voting for leaders who value integrity. Justice begins not with governments, but with ordinary people who dare to act. Memorable quote: "Justice is love made public." Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." In his time, religion often focused on external rituals, washing hands, keeping traditions, and following rules. But Jesus went deeper. He taught that true faith is not about appearances but about the condition of the heart. A pure heart is one that seeks truth, loves sincerely, and resists corruption. Fast forward to 2025. We live in a world obsessed with image. Social media rewards curated perfection, advertising sells desire, and people are pressured to project what they think others want to see. Yet behind the filters and polished surfaces, many feel empty, anxious, and lost. Purity of heart today means integrity, being the same person in private as in public. It means resisting the pull of greed, lust, or selfish ambition. It means keeping your values intact even when no one is watching. Psychologists affirm that authenticity brings mental clarity, lowers stress, and creates stronger relationships. When our inner life matches our outer life, we find peace. But when we live with masks, we feel fragmented and restless. Consider a modern story. Chloe was a rising politician. On the outside, she spoke passionately about honesty and fairness. But in private, she accepted secret donations from corporations. One day, a young volunteer confronted her, asking, "Do you believe what you say, or is it just a performance?" The question pierced Chloe's heart. She realized she had lost her integrity. Over time, she rejected the bribes, rebuilt her career, and chose transparency. The road was harder, but her conscience was free. She discovered that purity of heart is not about being flawless, but about being whole. In 2025, purity of heart means choosing authenticity over performance, honesty over deception, and love over selfish ambition. A pure heart doesn't mean perfection, it means wholeness. Memorable quote, "A pure heart is not perfect, it is whole."